Hi, welcome to this short video on how to construct your works cited page for your academic papers. In a previous video, we discussed that MLA is simply a documentation system for citing the sources that you've used in your academic papers. A previous video covered how to use in-text citations for all of your summaries, quotations, and paraphrases. And this video will focus specifically on how to properly cite your sources in a works cited page. As a reminder, the in-text citations are used within the paper for each summary, each quotation, or each paraphrase you use. Those in-text citations usually state an author's name or an organization's name that sponsored a publication and the page number from where that summary, quotation, or paraphrase came from. A works cited page is the list of sources you've used in your paper. It lists every single source you've used. And each source is given a complete citation, and I'm going to explain what that means later in this video, but for an example, you can look at your Quick Access Compact textbook. One note is that the works cited page is included at the end of your essay. It is the very last page of your essay. But what's the point of a works cited page? Very similar to your in-text citations, you want to provide a works cited page that gives the complete citations for your paper. You do this so that your readers, if they're interested, can go and find a source that you've used to learn more about a topic or to verify that you used information correctly. For you, you appear more knowledgeable and credible as a researcher and a writer, and of course it helps you avoid plagiarism because you're giving credit to all the sources that you've used. There are different kinds of sources you've likely used in your academic paper. Some of you have used articles from websites, some of you have used articles from scholarly journals, and these came from the library databases such as Academic Search Complete or EBSCO. You may have used books, government publications, either in print or likely from a website, and you may be using blogs, wikis, or podcasts. You might have other kinds of sources, but the point I want to make is that each kind of source has a different kind of rule for the way you cite this in a works cited page. I can't emphasize that enough. Different types of sources have different rules, and you're going to have to look through Quick Access Compact, Chapter 35, to find those rules. It's not a quick process. It's not even an easy process. I've been writing papers and citing sources for a long time, and I always have to turn to my textbook to get those rules correct. Now, when I talk about having a complete citation, typically this is the kind of information you're going to want to pull from your sources to put into your citation. You'll always want to know the author's name, or if not an author, the organization's name that's providing the source, the title of your article or chapter, the title of the website or journal or book from where that article came, possibly the publisher's information or the place of publication. In a book, you'll typically find that on the inside, first or second page of that book. The date the source was published, the page numbers. It includes the date you access the source, if it's an online source such as a website or a journal article, and whether you found the source on the web or a print version. So if you're at the doctor's office and you picked up the New York Times, that would have been a print version. But we also know the New York Times publishes online. So you'll need to specify whether your source came from the web or the print, and that'll help your readers find that source later on. Now I want to do a little practice, give you a few examples that are relevant to the types of sources you've probably used in your own academic essay. Now this rule, number 41, comes from Quick Access Compact. And this is a citation, a rule for any kind of article you've used from an online newspaper or magazine. Now you see these words, periodical, that simply means newspaper or magazine in this case. So let's say I want to cite an article from the New York Times that I found online. The citation rule will look something like this. I'll need the author's last name at first, the title of the article in quotations, the title of the magazine or newspaper in italics, the name of the publisher, if it has it, the date of publication, the medium, which means web or print, and the date that I accessed the source. So let me show you a little example here. We're going to go to the New York Times. Let's say I'm writing a paper and I want to cite this source that I read. You can see at the top, New York Times is who provides this article. There's a title for the article here, and luckily we know the author's name. So that'll be included in our citation. Also, close to the article title, we see the date of publication. But we need to find who the publisher is. Typically, you're going to find that information at the very bottom of your screen. If you look down here at the bottom, the publisher is going to be the New York Times Company, okay? Sometimes you'll find this information, sometimes you won't. My point is that if you're using any kind of web source, you're going to have to do a little searching to get all the bits and pieces that you'll need for your citation. So let's go back to my presentation. Now, what you see here is the rule, and underneath it you see the bits and pieces I pulled from the website to construct this complete citation. So in red I have the author's name. In orange I have the title of her article in quotations. Then we have the title of the magazine or newspaper, which is the New York Times. I have the name of the publisher, which is the New York Times Company. Date of publication, the medium, found it on the web, and then I have to put the date of my access. I viewed it on November 15th, 2012. The reason that's important is simply so that your readers know the source is current and that you aren't using information that's old. Because you viewed it recently, because it was published recently, we can assume it has very up-to-date current information. Let's look at another rule. Many of you will probably use an article from a journal that you found through a database in the library. Now, library databases provide you electronic versions of journal articles that were most likely also made available in a print version that could be mailed through the United States Postal Service. So in your book, rule number 34 is going to say article with a print version. What you need to know is that this means the rules for how to cite an article from a scholarly journal that you found through the library. So it looks similar to the previous rule I showed you, but it's slightly different. We have the author's name, title of the article, title of the journal. You're going to need the volume and issue number, date of publication, the page numbers from the beginning of the article to the end, the name of the database, and so on. So here I found an article from the library database. I have my author's names, the title of their article, the title of the journal in italics. Now you'll see number 155.2, that's volume 155 and issue number 2. It was published in 2011, and the article is from page 5 to 14. Now here's important information, the database. I found it through Academic Search Premier. The reason you need to include this information, if you found it through a database, is so that your reader could go to that database and put in maybe the name of the title or the author's name, and that article will come right up. Found it on the web and the date that I accessed the source. Now, I'm going a little fast here. Feel free to rewind, to pause the video, to write down these rules. But as I've posted at the top, this is rule number 34 in Quick Access Compact. So you can go to that rule and try and insert your own information from the scholarly articles that you've used. Some other rules you might use are listed here. You may have a chapter, an article from a book. You likely aren't using an entire book in your paper. Maybe you're just using a chapter. So there's the rule you can find. Number 11. I've again placed number rule 34 for an article from a scholarly journal that you found through the library. How to cite online newspaper and magazine articles. Maybe you're using a page from a website, such as maybe you're using the TCC website and you're just citing one page from it, maybe information about enrollment. So rule number 50 will show you how to cite just a page from a website. It's not necessarily an article, it's just a page to the school's website. Rule 54 will show you how to cite government or institutional websites, the whole entire website. And possibly you've used a post from a blog. Experts post blogs all the time. Rule number 68 will help you with that. If you've used sources and none of these rules seem to apply, you're just going to have to search through Chapter 35 of Quick Access Compact and find the rules you need. Again, it's not a quick process. It takes a little time and a little searching, but insert the information like the examples that are shown in the book. And finally, I want to show you an example of a works cited page that I've created for one of my own essays. I'll go through the features now and then I'll show you. So you'll have works cited posted at the top and centered. You want to list all of your sources in alphabetical order according to the author's last name. Your works cited page is double spaced, just like the rest of your essay, and it has 1-inch margins on all sides. If your citation goes onto a second line, you indent that line. And finally, your in-text citations need to match the works cited page. And I'll explain what that means in just a second. So let me pull up an example here for you. Here's a works cited page that I recently made. As you notice, works cited is listed here at the top. My sources are in alphabetical order according to the author's last name. Now, actually, here's a source that doesn't have an author. Because there's no author, we start with the title of the article. But as you can see, it goes on. The second line is indented whenever a citation goes more than one line. And that's about it. You just list them in alphabetical order. So I want to show you what it means that your citations in the paper should match the citations in your works cited page. So let me scroll up. Here's just a paragraph from an essay I wrote where I cite some sources here. So for example, in this sentence, I am using a quotation from Harbour and Eby. Now, what you need to know is that if your author's names are listed in the in-text citation, then in your works cited page, your citation needs to begin with their names. That's what it means that your in-text citation should match the works cited page. If they look that way in the in-text citations, then your users, your readers, can scroll down to your works cited page and quickly locate the source that they're interested in knowing more about. So that's all I have for you now. Hopefully this video showed you how to use rules to make the creation or the citations that you need for your works cited page. Citations aren't easy. You'll never memorize the rules. Trust me, I've tried and it never works. But feel free to email me with any questions you have. If you're not sure what kind of source you're using, just send me an email, tell me a little bit about it, give me the link, and we can help figure out what kind of rule you need to use to cite that source. Thank you for your time.